Hey there, this is John Bell, and I am starting a podcast. And the focus is, of course, no, I shouldn't say of course, it's going to be anti fascist, quite simply. It's going to be focused on activating a coalition of the decent and the sane. Quite a task, I think, but we're committed to it. We're committed to democracy and we're committed to decency for all people. We're committed to equity. In fact, we're committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. What I wanted to talk about today, just because I came across this article on the Daily Beast, and it, like so many other articles and news about this administration and what's happening in the country, is disturbing and infuriating and enraging. It has to do, shockingly, with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. I'm going to read the article from the Daily Beast on here, and then I'm going to lay into this fascist, racist piece of shit motherfucker. Here we go. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has vowed not to back down from celebrating America's proud Confederate history. We recognize our history, Hegseth told Fox News' Will Cain on Thursday. We don't erase it. We don't follow the woke lemmings off the cliff that want to tear down the statues. We're proud of our history. Hegseth was defending the decision to restore a Confederate monument in Arlington National Cemetery that critics say whitewashes the history of slavery in America. Yeah, that's an understatement. Shortly after rebuking those who want to remove Confederate symbols, Hegseth made it clear that he was willing to do whatever it takes to defeat his opposition. Our job is to ensure our enemies know exactly what we will do to them if they threaten us, up to and including total war, he said. The monument in question is Moses Ezekiel's Confederate memorial. A truly execrable human being, for sure. It features an inscription in Latin that describes the Civil War as a, quote, lost cause, unquote, that was honorable for its noble principles and resistance to tyranny. Horseshit. Okay. The sculpture also depicts black people as supporting the Confederate soldiers, implying that they wish to remain enslaved. The 32-foot tall monument offers a, quote, nostalgic, mythologized vision of the Confederacy, including highly sanitized depictions of slavery, unquote, according to an archived version of the National Cemetery website. It was erected in 1914, well after the Civil War, and taken down under former President Joe Biden in 2023. The move to restore the sculpture is part of a broader push by the Trump administration to restore references to the Confederacy across the government. The National Park Service announced earlier this week that it's bringing back a statue of Confederate Army General Albert Pike, who once wrote that, quote, the white race and that race alone shall govern this country. It is the only one that is fit to govern, and it is the only one that shall, unquote. The administration has also restored the names of a number of Army bases named for Confederate leaders. Okay. First of all, if you haven't already picked it up, I curse a lot. And sometimes I do it for emphasis. Sometimes I do it because it makes me feel good. But let me tell you this. These pointy head dickheads might as well just put on the right white robes and the pointy hats for your pointy heads, because you are despicable fucking racists. And the fact that you're our defense secretary, it disgusts and infuriates me. And it shows me that the thread that comes all the way from that time and before is alive and well, and we can pull on it, and we need to identify and bring down every one of these motherfuckers. Every single one of them. It is despicable what is being said. And let's be clear. I've had this debate with people. I've even had this debate with people that I don't consider to be totally racist, and some of them are family. Let me clue you into something. Confederate statues are not history. All right? They're nothing to do with history. They are idolatry. They are symbols and symbols only, but they are symbols. Yeah, they're symbols of history, of a terrible history that none of us should be proud of. Fuck your lost cause. The biggest mistake that we made in the Confederacy was that we didn't come down and completely crush it. That we were too soft. And now here we are getting ready to fight the Civil War again because of little dick assholes like Pete Hegseth, who, by the way, as I'm speaking, is probably drunk off his ass somewhere, scared to death that he's going to lose his job, as he should. But he's just one. This is an army of people like this that have the most prurient and small-minded, hateful views that you can imagine. And yeah, I push back on anybody. You don't like the comparisons to the Nazis and Hitler? Too fucking bad, because that's what applies here. And by the way, if you're wondering, I was speaking to another old acquaintance the other day, and this is an idea I've had for a long time, but it is true. We can talk about what they're trying to do. And yes, in certain ways, the model is Hungary or the model's Turkey, or really the model is actually Russia and installing a completely corrupt autocracy coupled with the oligarchs that scoop up all of the national wealth. That's what we're heading for. But the model is Gilead. Tonight, I urge anyone who takes the time to listen to this rant to either read the books by Margaret Atwood, or to watch the show. I don't normally promote anything on this. I'm not going to be promoting anything commercial on this podcast. It's going to be free of corporate advertising. You won't see pre-hangover cures or me hawking any products. But I do make that recommendation because that is explicitly read Project 2025, watch The Handmaid's Tale, and then tell me that that's not exactly what they're shooting for. In fact, I'm going to make a claim. I don't know this for sure, but I'm pretty sure it's true, which is people like J.D. Vance, Pete Hegseth, and the other tiny dick out there, they masturbate to The Handmaid's Tale. The idea of being a God-anointed commander with complete power, not only over a household, but over any woman and certainly any minority. Folks, this is the darkest time in my 56 years of being alive. This is the darkest time in America. I think it may be a darker time even than the Civil War, because at least in that instance, we had one legitimate side that had power that wasn't going to knuckle under to the South. And what horrible, horrible society created there. So this is going to be like, maybe not all the are going to be this inflammatory and curse-laden, but we're going to call this out, and then we're going to spend a great deal of our time and energy and focus on talking about what the fuck do we do about this? Because we're going to need to take extreme action. If anyone, or you, anyone counseling moderation, let's tack to the middle, I don't care who you are, whether you're Gavin Newsom or the Emmanuel, this is not the way. You don't fight fascism with moderation. Like that equals appeasement. So we need to change our language. We're on a war footing. The other side's already calling it a war. Hey, you don't want to call it a war? You don't want to use those words? Okay. Stick your head in the sand. This is a battle for the future of humanity, not just in this country. The United States, as imperfect as it always has been over the long arc a steadily improving democracy, serving its people more fairly, more broadly. All of that has come to a clashing halt. I'm willing to lay my welfare on the line. I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing this because I love democracy. I'm doing this because I believe in freedom. That may sound simplistic, but it's not. And I think there are a lot of people out there across the country that feel the same way. And they are itching to hear from people that are ready to fight and that are ready to call out what really needs to be done. No, I'm not going to preach moderation. I'm not going to preach typical retail politics. I'm going to preach doing whatever the fuck it takes to get these freaks out of power and keep them out of power forever. Because I don't have a problem with Republicans or conservatives that are legitimately bought into the democratic system. Fine. You want to argue for your policies? Great. That's not what's happening. We all know it. And the sooner we stop pretending and that we start mobilizing and that we start unpacking the weaponry, so to speak, then maybe we have a chance. But I'll tell you this. I'm going to leave you with a very harsh note. We no longer have a democracy in America. Democracy has fallen. We have an autocratic government that is actively, that's probably an understatement, they are fervently trying to blow up every single democratic norm and institution that exists in this country. They don't want it. They want to impose their will on us, and their will is dark and inhuman. And if you're willing to lay down and accept that, then this podcast and message isn't for you, and you're just a fucking freeloader is what you are. If you can't muster the civic engagement to join us now, then you're probably the ones that need to be deported, not the hardworking immigrants. I'm going to sign off in utter disgust and anger after reading that article. And there's 50 more like it, showing if you're willing to join up, we're putting something together that I think is going to be different. Okay, we're going to be loud. We're going to be in your face. We're going to tell it like we see it. And we're going to go after these fucks. And in doing that, we're going to insist on the highest standards from the coalition. And I'm not going to call it Democrats. I'm a lifelong Democrat. I'm extremely disappointed in the party, and I don't believe in the leadership. I'm going to throw that out there right now. They are not up to this task. Not now. And a number of the so-called leadership need to get the hell out of the way. They need to get out of town because they're straddling the fence, and they have been. And that's a problem in the Democratic Party. They know what's right. They know what's wrong. But as long as they're beholden to corporate donors and big donors, and here's a fuck you to George Clooney, right? I don't need him canceling out my vote. I don't need the elites and the donors having a bigger say and running their stuff through like Nancy Pelosi. I used to have a lot of respect for her. I still respect, but she also needs to get out of the way. The shadow leader. So I'm going to be coming after sacred cows. I'm going to be pointing out where our leadership has failed in the past and where it's failing now and what I think we need. We're going to be bringing other contributors on board, and we're going to have a robust discussion. Do not put anything these fascists, because they will do anything. And I'll say another thing. Don't just blindly follow a Democrat or a progressive independent, anyone on the other side that just says, hey, elect me and I'll fight for you. That's not good enough. We need people to take concrete stands on what they're willing to do. I'll say one last thing. If you let me, I'll ramble. But I'm gonna give James Carville a backhanded compliment here. I'm glad that he finally, after 5 fucking years, came around to the obvious need to deal with court reform and democratic reform in general. We had the chance. A month ago, he was saying, let's play possum. So, again, take this man with a grain of salt. He really hasn't been all that right since Clinton's election. And that was a long time ago. So I'm glad to see that some of the old guard are waking the fuck up and finally understand that we need to take aggressive measures. I wouldn't even call that extreme. But whether it's expanding the court, putting in term limits, both, all of those things have to be done, not considered, not talked about. Just the second we have power, it has to be done. The other thing is we have to pass both of the voting rights bills that were teed up. This is where I'm going to pick on Schumer. Chuck Schumer, you failed. You failed big, man, and you're failing now. You're an appeaser and a negotiator. You're not a wartime leader, and you're a creature of the Senate. You're known as the senator from Wall Street. Get the fuck out of the way, man. First of all, you've let seats in swing states get taken from us that just absolutely couldn't be taken. To North Carolina twice. You didn't support enough. Came really close. That was what the hell you allowed to happen in Wisconsin in the race against Johnson. I'm absolutely convinced that you're going to do some fucking deal with the Republicans on the budget. Let the government shut down. I actually think it would be to our advantage now. The government is now our enemy if you don't get it. So, yeah, don't negotiate with fascists and Nazis. It's kind of like an unspoken rule, I guess, but it shouldn't be. So, yeah, we're going to have to make some changes. We need new leadership, and we need to put pressure across every election. So, I'm all in with David. Like the Democrats who aren't getting it done, who aren't on board with fighting this fight with everything that they have, we don't need to elect them. We have alternatives, and we'll come up with alternatives. We need to push this party and the coalition, which will include former Republicans. We've got to make it happen. Like our lives, the future of this country depend on it. Truly. So I hope you'll join me. This was a very unscripted rant that I chose to do for my inaugural podcast. But we're going to get better and better. We're going to have more people, and we're going to be in this fight. And we're going to push, and we're going to push for the radical measures that are needed to save this country. I'm John Bell, all liberal, all the time. I love you. Stay safe, and we will take these assholes down.